Y'all, the desperation that I'm about to show you, it is reeking. You will probably be able to smell this through your camera. I mean, I've seen Desperate before, but now they're running rematches between Kamala Harris and Trump in the 2024 election on CNN. And don't worry, guys, that mysterious win is now all of a sudden going to extrapolate into these things and the if, then, this, maybe future. Guys, seriously, desperation doesn't quite cover it. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, turn the notification bell on. We are dispelling propaganda and would love to have you jump in here with us because the more people that join, the more power we have. All right, let's get into this. You can, of course, follow me on X at Braden LOA. I don't want to bury the lead on you guys. This is wild. I mean, you cannot come across more desperate and then try and attempt to basically reframe it from a standpoint of interpreting outcomes off of a fictional idea. Okay? This is all hypothetical, and then they extrapolate it out into a real reality. This is not how this works, but don't worry. I've got the reality for you, too. I've got it all right now. It'll all be linked in the description box. All right, Harry, take it away. You have been increasingly desperate for Kamala Harris recently, Hair Bear. We got to talk about this, and we will in 1 second.
Regrets of some folks had a few. What are we talking about here? Well, let's just take a look here. Okay, choice for 2024 presidential election. The actual was Donald Trump winning by about 1.5 points. It rounds to a point. But take a look here. In a polled redo between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris in April of 2025, it was within the margin of error, right? Kamala Harris by a point. But look at where we are now, according to an NBC News SurveyMonkey poll. Kamala Harris wins in a redo, asking folks, essentially, if you could redo the 2024 election, how would you vote? She wins it by, get this, 8 points, a massive shift from what we saw back in November of 2024 when Donald Trump won by a point. And I will note that this sample was weighted to the 2024 result in which Donald Trump won by a point, but yet Kamala Harris in this weighted sample, get this, she wins by 8 amongst a sample that voted for Trump by 1.
Well, so the good news is Kamala Harris, for her, wins the 2024 election. The bad news is it's actually 2026, so it doesn't count for her.
Yeah, you're right, other guy. It doesn't matter. This is a complete and total hypothetical. Big win, though. Big win. You run this thing back 15 months ago and she might win if then this, but she didn't. She lost the freaking popular vote. She lost the swing states, every one of them. She lost the House and the Senate and the White House and most of the governorships. But yeah, that hypothetical redo, haha, score, lefties, score. And also, wait until I show you the third part of this segment about hypotheticals, what if then maybe. Y'all, seriously, the desperation, it's getting a little thick in these streets. All right, I've got all these different congressional votes available for you in a second, but one more segment, we're going to tear it asunder, and then I'm going to show you the third and final hypothetical here. This is wildly desperate. All right, go on, Harry.
What about, though, the 2026 midterms when we're talking about Trump voters and then also Harris voters?
There it is.
So you see this, and as John was laughing about, the fact is the 2024 election is good, gone, goodbye. But it has a massive impact, this voter sentiment, on what may happen later this year. Why do I say that? Because let's take a look at the vote for Congress, and this is very important, all right?
Love the covering your ass there. What may happen in a thing that never did happen, but what could maybe if then that. Okay, may. Always listen to the little words they use. May happen. Watch this.
2024 Harris voters, they vote for the Democrats on average by, get this, 89 points. The Trump voters mostly stick by the Republicans, but by a significantly smaller margin, by 83 points. This means that the Democratic base that voted for Kamala Harris is sticking with those congressional Democratic candidates to a much greater degree than those Trump voters are sticking with the Republican candidates for Congress, and that is why what you're seeing on that generic congressional ballot is Democrats leaping ahead by this point by about 5 points, because at least at this point, the Trump voters are not sticking by the Republicans as much as the Harris voters are sticking by the Democrats.
Yeah, and these...
You know what Hair Bear didn't really mention there? There was a whole shit ton less Kamala voters than Trump voters. So 83 points are holding by the Republicans, but 89 points of a lesser percentage, less than the popular vote in the United States, are sticking by the Democrats in the House. That leads us to a 5-point difference in the congressional ballot. You ready for me to start tearing this asunder yet? Because I'm just having fun at this moment. Let's bring out some other generic congressional votes, shall we? Okay. First, I'm going to set the baseline for you because you have to understand what they're referencing the congressional ballot. The congressional ballot is you're not going to have a candidate. You're taking the people out of it. It's Democrat or Republican. They always do. It's a generic ballot. They love this for this reason. Right now, the overall average is 5 points, as Harry Enton just said. As you can see right up here, this is the 2026 generic congressional vote. Okay, 5 points. Let me clutch my pearls. All right, now let's go back. And this is something else that Hair Bear didn't tell you. Let's go back to the first Trump midterm. You know, when he was president the first time, when he wasn't going to beat Kamala Harris yet, but he did. It was 8.4%. That was the actual final results. The average was 7.3. So even in a polling average in 2018, when they took the House from Donald Trump, it was 7.3%. Okay? That's with the Republican outlier. That's with all the other things as well. 7.3%. All right? Remember, it is 5 now. It is less than in 2018. Now let me show you something else. Then we'll get to the real dumb hypothetical that they're about to drop on CNN. This is 2022. So I showed you Trump's midterm upcoming, the averages going into 2026. I showed you 2018, and all this will be linked in the description box below. But now I'm showing you 2022, when Joe Biden got his midterm. Going into the actual midterm election, it was a plus 2.5 Republican environment. Do you know how many seats they took the majority by? One seat. I believe the total was 217 to 216. Okay, so at 2.5% is going to get you 1 seat. What do you think 5.1% is going to get? Maybe 2, if they even get that. So all this hypothetical about something that is 8 months away from the current date. Again, all if they did a rerun, and based on those if then did a rerun, the extrapolation into the midterms, and it's a depressed midterm generic ballot than it was before, it brings you to this whole point of the entire thing is desperation. Okay, now watch this last clip. I'm just going to let it rip. This is wild, and this will seal this video for you. Watch this.
Numbers may not look that different, but this 5 points, which is roughly what that is, that really could be hugely important come November. This is people who did vote in 2024. What about those perhaps who did not?
Okay, so part of the equation, right, is that the Harris voters are really sticking with those Democratic candidates more so than the Trump voters are sticking with the Republican candidates. But it's more than that. It's also people coming off of the sideline. Okay, voters' choice for election for the 2026 congressional elections. If they didn't vote in 2024, look at this. Democrats are winning that vote by a significant margin, by 16 percentage points. So you add onto that the Harris voters sticking with the Democratic candidates, all of a sudden you see, hey, this is the way that Democrats are going to get back their congressional majority. And more than that, I will note that in 2024, of course, the Trump voters, or the people who voted for Trump, he actually won a larger share of those non-2020 voters. So it's not just what we're seeing here, historically speaking, that, hey, non-voters vote Democrats. That was not the case in 2024.
Okay. That is the most convoluted way to add something in that you possibly could do. Okay, so let me tie this together again for you. This is going to be fun. This will be a really great short. So in 2026, in the upcoming midterm elections, the Democrats are winning plus 16 with people who didn't vote for Kamala Harris in the election or Trump and didn't vote at all. So you're winning with people who did not get up off their butts to go vote, and that's a win, based off of a complete and total hypothetical rematch, which is all just if, then, but statements. Okay, are y'all seeing this? Because this entire segment is based around, we're going to do an imaginary rematch of something from a year and a half ago, which doesn't matter anymore at all. Then we're going to go into which people are sticking with Democrats, which people are sticking with Republicans. So Kamala Harris has a greater percentage of a smaller number, so therefore she's magically going to do better. And then we're going to extrapolate that out and then add in people who just didn't vote because magically they're going to vote now, and you get a plus 16 Democrat majority. Y'all, are you seeing what this is? Because if you're not, you're looking at actual push polls. You are looking at push segments. This is meant to give a perception that the Democrats have these tremendously massive, huge advantages when you're talking about 16 people, you're plus 16 in people who didn't vote. That's great. I can't even think of it. There's a chance if it's raining, I might get rained on if I'm outside. Or there's a chance I won't get rained on if I'm on the inside. Like, what? It doesn't even make sense. It's completely just fictitious. I tell you what, like sometimes I just lose my patience. But you guys are here to ground me, and thank you for that. So I'll see you guys on the next one. I'm Braden. See you later.